Wait, why did I come in here? That's the question I asked myself last Tuesday when I wandered into the kitchen with purpose in my step, and then stood there staring at the fridge like it was about to give me a clue. I looked around, scratched my head, opened a cupboard, closed it, and stood in silence. The dog looked up at me like he was waiting for an announcement. I laughed out loud because it wasn't the first time that had happened, and if we're being honest, it won't be the last. But here's the thing. It's not just about forgetting why we walked into a room. It's the small, subtle moments, forgetting someone's name mid-sentence, misplacing the reading glasses that were just on your head, or drawing a blank on a word that's dancing on the tip of your tongue. These little lapses have a way of sneaking into our days and planting quiet seeds of doubt. Am I slipping? Is this just age? Should I be worried? Let me stop you right there and tell you something important. Forgetfulness isn't failure, and it doesn't mean your brain is fading. More often than not, it's just overloaded, understimulated, or simply tired from juggling the weight of a lifetime's worth of memories and responsibilities. After 60, your brain doesn't stop working. It just needs to be treated with a bit more care, a little more intention, and a lot more kindness. Now, if you're still standing in your imaginary kitchen wondering what you came for, let's walk out together and start fresh, with clarity. Because you can do something about brain fog, and better yet, it doesn't involve expensive supplements or 20-minute memory drills. It begins with how you start your day. Most people don't realize how much their mornings affect their minds. You wake up, maybe after tossing and turning a bit, groggily reach for the remote or the phone, pour a cup of coffee, and let the news or silence fill the room. Before you've had a single real thought, the day is already running away with you. The brain, still trying to boot up. Here's a better way. Before you grab that phone or flick on the news, take 60 seconds, just one full minute, to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask yourself one question. What do I want from today? You're not solving world peace. You're just calling your brain forward, gently and deliberately. That simple ritual of intentionality puts your mind in the driver's seat instead of the back seat. It's like dusting off your mental windshield before you start the engine. And while we're on the subject of starting engines, movement, any movement, is pure gold for the brain. I don't mean a full workout routine or lifting weights in the garage, though that's great if you're up for it. I'm talking about something as modest as a 10-minute walk around the block, swinging your arms a bit, and letting your eyes scan the world. The fresh air, the change of scenery, the rhythm of your footsteps, all of it tells your brain, hey, we're alive, we're moving, we're curious. That movement increases blood flow to the brain, literally feeding it oxygen and nutrients. There's a woman I know named Ruth. She's and lives alone since her husband passed a few years back. She told me once that after he died, the days started to blur together. It felt like fog, she said, not sadness all the time, just this heavy haze. But then she started taking morning walks, just up the road and back. At first, it was just to get the stiffness out, as she put it. But then something changed. She started noticing the neighbors' flowers blooming, hearing the different birds, feeling her thoughts getting clearer. It's like my brain is wiping the windows, she said. Ruth didn't go looking for mental clarity. She walked into it, one gentle step at a time. Now, let's talk about something we often overlook when thinking about staying sharp. Conversation. Not scrolling through headlines or watching people argue on TV, but real, engaged, back-and-forth conversation. When was the last time you had a conversation that made you laugh, or pause to think, or remember a detail from long ago? These exchanges are like stretching exercises for the brain. They force you to listen, recall, respond, and react. And best of all, they often come with an emotional kick, a smile, a memory, a feeling of connection, all of which light up different areas of the brain like a string of holiday lights. You don't need a crowd to do this. A phone call with a friend, a thoughtful chat with a neighbor, Even a short exchange with someone at the store can make a real difference. Think of it this way. Every good conversation is like doing a little bit of yoga for your mind. It pulls, bends, and balances you in the best possible way. And just as our minds thrive on movement and connection, they also flourish when we challenge them, not with frustration or pressure, but with curiosity. Think of curiosity like vitamins for the brain. Small doses, taken daily, make a big difference. Over time, if something puzzles you, don't let it slide past. Ask. Look it up. Ask again. Keep that engine turning. There's this older gentleman I used to see at the library every Thursday. Always in the nonfiction aisle, always picking something totally unexpected. One week it was honeybees, next week it was jazz musicians, then a book about ancient Egypt. I asked him once, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "I'm just keeping the upstairs lights on." That phrase has stuck with me ever since. Keeping the upstairs lights on. That's what this is all about. So, if you found yourself lately asking, "Why did I come in here?" Don't panic. You're not broken. You're human. And chances are your brain just needs a nudge, not a rescue. A little movement, a little intention, and a little curiosity go a very long way. In fact, they might just be the way back to that kitchen with purpose in your step and clarity in your eyes. There's something magical about the tiny moments we usually overlook. The way you stir your tea, or glance out the window while tying your shoe. They don't seem like much, but they're little invitations, chances to tune in, rather than drift. Most people think brain health comes from big things, learning a new language, memorizing poetry, solving logic puzzles. And sure, those help. But staying sharp after 60 isn't about turning your life into a brain boot camp. It's about waking up to the everyday moments that quietly shape your thinking. Let me tell you about my neighbor, Marty. He's 68, retired from teaching math at a high school. Now, you'd think a math teacher would be obsessed with Sudoku or chess or something with grids. Not Marty. Every morning, he sits on his porch and watches the street come alive. He waves to the same people, notices which plants are blooming, keeps a running commentary about the squirrels like he's narrating a nature documentary. And he talks to anyone who walks by. Really talks, asks questions, remembers your grandkid's name, gives advice that you didn't ask for but appreciate. Anyway, that porch is his classroom now, and his brain, sharp as ever, because he's still observing, still connecting, still present. There's something powerful about that kind of attention. When you slow down and really engage with the world around you, it's like lighting a match in a dim room. Your brain perks up. It starts noticing patterns, storing information, sharpening its edges. You don't need to download an app or sign up for a memory course. You just need to pay attention to your own life as it unfolds. Another thing Marty does, which I've quietly stolen from him, is ask curious questions during the most routine parts of the day. Like when he's brushing his teeth, he'll think, "What's the capital of Montana?" Or, "Who was that actor in the movie I watched last night?" Sometimes he Googles the answer. Sometimes he doesn't. But the point isn't getting it right. It's turning his mind into a place of exploration. That playful curiosity, even in quiet moments, is like fertilizer for memory. And you know what pairs beautifully with curiosity? Movement. We touched on this before, but it's worth lingering on. Because so often, after 60, people start to think of exercise as this thing that's for the body. Gotta keep my knees working, or need to stay flexible. But the brain is deeply connected to how we move. In fact, when you go for a walk and swing your arms naturally, your brain starts releasing chemicals that help you focus and feel alert. One of them is called BDNF, a mouthful, I know, but it basically works like Miracle-Gro for your brain cells. Your body moves and your brain blossoms. Now, I'm not saying you need to jog or climb a mountain. Not at all. But a walk with purpose, or dancing around the living room, or even marching in place while the kettle boils. These things matter. And more than the motion itself, it's the habit that tells your brain, We are still in the game. We are still learning, still adapting, still interested. It reminds me of Linda, a friend of mine from church. She had a stroke a few years back. Recovered well, but told me afterward, "My brain felt like it had been shaken in a snow globe." That's how she described her fog, but she refused to let that be the end of the story. Every day, she made it her goal to walk from her mailbox to the corner, just 2 houses down and back. Then she added a little more. Along the way, she'd name every flower she passed, or hum a hymn she remembered from childhood. It was part physical therapy, part prayer, part mental workout. And you should hear her now, full of stories, facts, even jokes. She'll say, "You wouldn't believe the things that come back to you when you go looking for them." There's this quiet myth floating around that after a certain age your world should get smaller. That curiosity is for the young, and older folks should just settle into routines. I don't buy it. The brain doesn't want to settle. It wants to stretch. It wants to make connections. And one of the best ways to do that is with other people. Now, I'm not talking about forcing yourself to go out if you're more introverted. I'm talking about meaningful connection in whatever way feels natural to you. A phone call, a short visit, even writing a letter. When you have to recall stories, respond to someone else's thoughts, or simply share space with another person. Your brain kicks into gear. That back-and-forth rhythm is one of the oldest forms of mental exercise. There's an older gentleman named Gerald I met at a community center potluck. He told me he used to feel his mind slipping a little, not badly, just that fuzzy around, the edges feeling. His daughter encouraged him to start volunteering at the local library, helping younger kids with reading. "At first, I didn't think I had much to offer," he said, "but you try explaining a storybook to a 6-year-old. You've got to be on it." His vocabulary sharpened, his memory got better, and most of all, he started feeling mentally alive again. Because when someone looks at you with wide eyes, waiting for your next word, you don't want to let them down. You want to stay sharp. So maybe brain health isn't about becoming someone new. Maybe it's about waking up the parts of you that got a little sleepy, paying attention to your own life, asking a question for the fun of it, moving a little more than you think you need to, talking to someone just because it feels good to connect. None of it has to be overwhelming. You don't need a big plan. You just need one small decision. Today, this hour, maybe even this moment, to stay present. That's it. Stay present. Your brain will take care of the rest. Let me tell you about the time I nearly blamed my brain for what was really just a bad sandwich. It was a Thursday. I remember that much. And I'd had one of those mornings where everything felt slightly off. Couldn't focus, lost my keys twice, forgot an old friend's name mid-story, which stung a little. By lunchtime, I was convinced I was on the fast track to full-blown forgetfulness. But later that evening, after a long nap and several glasses of water, I felt fine. Sharper, even. That's when it hit me. Sometimes the fog isn't coming from our thoughts. It's coming from the body underneath them. You see, the brain doesn't operate in isolation. It's not sitting up there in your skull doing calculus while the rest of your body goes about its business. No, it's fed by what you eat, powered by your sleep, soothed by your gut, and lifted by your mood. And once I really started paying attention to how food and rest shaped my clarity, everything changed. Let's start with the obvious villain. Dehydration. You've probably heard that older adults don't feel thirst as sharply, and it's true. The signals weaken, but the consequences don't. Even mild dehydration can leave you feeling foggy, unfocused, cranky, or sleepy. And the tricky part, you won't necessarily feel thirsty. You might just think, I'm in a bit of a funk today. Or, I can't think straight. All the while, your brain is quietly drying out like a sponge left on the sink. So, here's a gentle nudge. Before you jump to conclusions about your memory, drink a glass of water. Not soda, not coffee, not wine, just plain, simple water. You'd Be amazed how often clarity returns within 20 minutes. I've even gotten into the habit of keeping a glass by the bathroom sink so it's the first thing I reach for every morning. Think of it as turning the lights on for your brain. Now, while water is the simplest fix, food is the longer game. We all know there are foods that help the brain: berries, leafy greens, nuts, fatty fish. But what's just as important, and often overlooked, is what to avoid: processed sugar, heavy fried foods, and anything that makes your gut feel like it's running a marathon. That stuff matters. Because the brain and the gut are in constant conversation. You eat a greasy lunch, feel bloated, sluggish, uncomfortable, and then an hour later, your mind feels slow. That's not a coincidence. One woman I spoke to, Marlene, told me she used to get this PM fog every day like clockwork. She thought it was age catching up. Then one day she switched her usual sandwich and chips for a bowl of soup and a piece of fruit. Just like that, the afternoon slump vanished. She said, "I didn't need a nap. I needed real food." Isn't that something? And speaking of naps, let's talk about sleep. Not just the quantity, but the quality. If your sleep is shallow, choppy, or constantly interrupted, your brain never really gets the deep cleaning it needs. That's what sleep does. It rinses the brain, literally. Scientists have shown that during deep sleep, the brain clears out waste proteins and toxins that build up throughout the day. Skip that deep sleep and you're left with a cloudy filter the next morning. Now, I know sleep gets trickier as we get older. The body aches, the bladder calls, the mind wanders. But there are gentle ways to coax better rest without reaching for heavy medications. Try setting a winding down ritual. No screens an hour before bed, dim lights, soft music, or a good old-fashioned book. Maybe a warm bath or a magnesium drink. Something that tells your body, we're slowing down now. I've even heard folks swear by socks in bed, saying it helps with circulation and calms the nervous system. Who knew? But even more than sleep or food. There's something else that shapes mental clarity in a powerful way, and it's often hiding in plain sight: your mood. When we feel anxious, sad, or overwhelmed, the brain has a harder time focusing. Thoughts get jumbled. Memory stutters. Decisions feel harder. We call it mental fog, but it's really emotional weather. A low cloud of worry drifting in without warning. And here's the part we often miss. We try to think our way out of it. Why am I so scattered today? What's wrong with me? But what we need is kindness. A moment to say, hey, maybe I'm just carrying too much right now. That self-compassion clears fog faster than any to-do list ever could. There's an older couple I visit from time to time, Joan and Ed. They've been married over 50 years. Joan is still sharp as a tack, and Ed has good days and not so good days. But they have this thing they do in the morning. Before breakfast, they sit across from each other and say one thing they're grateful for, even if it's small. "I'm grateful for warm socks," Ed once said, "and for you remembering where I left my keys." They laugh, sip their coffee, and carry on. That 5-minute ritual doesn't just lift the heart, it wakes up the mind. Gratitude, joy, even laughter, they all release chemicals that help the brain function better. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, they're like little cheerleaders running through your bloodstream. And they don't come from winning the lottery. They come from noticing life, enjoying the smell of toast, listening to your favorite song, petting the dog, talking to someone who really hears you. The more we build those moments into our day, the clearer the fog becomes. Because the brain doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to feel safe, supported, cared for, and it turns out you can give your mind all of that, one choice at a time. So the next time you feel yourself drifting, don't panic. Don't assume the worst. Ask yourself, have I had water, real food, rest, connection? Am I worrying more than I need to? Am I being gentle with myself? It's not about chasing youth. It's about embracing wisdom and learning how to keep the lights on upstairs by tending to the whole house. Your body, your heart, your habits, they're all part of the story. And when they're in sync, even a foggy day can turn into one with just enough sun to find your way. I remember this quiet afternoon not too long ago, sitting with my aunt, Ruth, on her back porch. She's 84, a little slower now but still razor sharp when she wants to be. We were sipping ginger tea, watching a stubborn squirrel try to pry open a bird feeder, and out of nowhere she said, "The trick is to keep surprising yourself." I raised an eyebrow. She chuckled. If I can still make myself laugh, still learn something new, or say something I haven't said before, well, that means my brain's still working just fine. It stuck with me, because for all the science and studies and health tips, maybe the most powerful way to stay mentally sharp is to keep living with curiosity. Keep reaching forward, even if it's just an inch. And that doesn't have to mean doing something big or dramatic. It can be as simple as turning left instead of right on your evening walk, just to see what's down that street you've passed 100 times. Or calling someone you haven't talked to in years just to say, "I thought of you today." This idea of staying mentally sharp, it's not a pressure. It's not a job. It's a gift you get to give yourself. A way of saying, I still matter, my mind still matters, and I'm not done growing. Even after 60, 70, 80, especially after, because these later years aren't a slow fade. They're a different kind of spark. I've seen people rediscover old passions and come alive again. A man who hadn't painted in decades suddenly took up watercolors and now sells his work at local fairs. A woman who lost her husband found solace in writing poetry. Simple, honest verses that now hang on her church's bulletin board. These weren't grand gestures. They were quiet returns to self. And, in that returning, something cleared in their minds. A sharpness, yes, but also a lightness. There's a rhythm that develops when you care for your brain like it's something sacred. Not because it's failing, but because it's worth cherishing. You start to notice what lifts you. You start to guard your peace like a treasure. And you stop apologizing for needing a little more rest, or a little more silence, or a little more meaning in your days. And here's the beautiful thing. When you do that, when you truly honor your mind, others notice. They start to lean in. Maybe your grandchildren listen more closely when you share a story. Maybe your neighbors start asking for your advice. Maybe your own self-doubt fades into the background as you realize you're still here. You're still full of life, and your mind is still capable of joy, insight, and surprise. I think sometimes people worry that if they talk about brain fog or memory slips, they're somehow inviting decline. But I see it differently. Talking about it is an act of courage, of love. It means you care enough to pay attention. And that attention, that's the foundation of all sharpness. You can't fix what you ignore, but you can nourish what you notice. So maybe the most important shift is this. Don't approach mental clarity as something you chase. Let it be something you invite. With small rituals, with better choices, with curiosity and care. Let it be something you grow, like a garden. Some days the blossoms are bright, some days it's just dirt and effort, but every day you're tending to something real. You are not fading. You are refining. The brain you have right now, it's been through storms, through laughter, through grief, through growth. It's earned your compassion. It's earned a little grace. And if all this talk about water and walking and sleep and focus feels like a lot, let me remind you, you're already doing more than you think. You showed up here, listening, absorbing, staying open. That's step one. That's everything. So the next time you feel the fog creeping in, I want you to pause. Take a breath. Remember Aunt Ruth's squirrel wisdom. Keep surprising yourself. Try something a little different. Even if it's just dancing in the kitchen to a song you haven't heard in years. Even if it's saying out loud, "I feel foggy today, but I'm not broken," just recalibrating. Your brain is still listening, still learning, still alive with possibility. And if this story meant something to you, if it made you smile or reflect or feel just a little less alone, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments, tell a friend, or just take one piece of this and make it your own. Because this isn't just a video. It's a reminder. You've got wisdom worth honoring. And your mind. It's still one of your greatest gifts.